welcome to the webcast on Symantec DLP. My name is Stuart Monroe. I'm a Symantec authorized consultant and technical specialist on DLP. A little bit about ITS. We're exclusively on security and endpoint, and we have been for the last 10 years. We are a Symantec National Partner and Platinum Partner, and a Symantec Partner of the Year, as you can see, for 05, 07, 2011 also. That means we also are master specialized, and we work with about 50% of the Fortune 500 companies and some of the largest healthcare and largest federal agencies and departments. Symantec DLP is a leader in the Gardner Quadrant. As you can see up in the top right-hand quadrant there, they pretty much stand out by themselves. There's a few other players up there, but Symantec has been there for almost 4 years now with their DLP product. DLP threat coverage. DLP incorporates very many aspects of DLP. Looking at the top left-hand corner there, you have endpoint. Endpoints are your data at the endpoint. That's laptops, desktops. It can cover your print and fax, how you copy data to USB drives or burn it to DVDs or CDs. Also, how is that data stored and what data is stored down there. Your data at rest is your bottom picture there. It incorporates NAS's, SANs, file servers, databases, web servers, along with Lotus Notes and Exchange. And then your data in motion is your network. It's your web, email, instant messaging, FTP, anything that flows in and around your network. Here's a simple DLP architecture. As you can see down the bottom left-hand corner, even if your endpoint, your laptop, is still disconnected from the network, either not connected via VPN is the traditional way, there are still rules in place and agents in place that will still look at that endpoint and say, oh, nope, yep, we have rules against that. They're not allowed to send that confidential data or source code or anything else out there. But basically, DLP consists of about 5 points. In the center, you see, is what's called the Enforce platform. The Enforce platform is your central management console where you create all your policies and responses and detection rules. The database that it runs on is an Oracle database that can either run on the Enforce platform or off on a separate database server. So if you have an existing Oracle database that's in place that runs on Windows or Red Hat 5, you can take advantage of that existing Oracle database. In the top left-hand corner, you have your Network Discover and Network Protect. Network Discover is exactly what it says. It goes out, looks at SharePoint, looks at file servers, combs through all that data, and says, hey, do I have a rule that matches? If yes, what are my response rules for it? Data Insight is another component and actually can be a standalone aspect of DLP, and preferred methods to actually be installed prior to DLP. Data Insight goes out, talks to all your file servers and says, hey, what data is there, who's been accessing it, what dates, what times, to the point of if I create a file, leave the company, and somebody else is accessing that data now, it will tell you how many times they access it, and they may become the file owner at that point. Over on the right-hand side is the DMZ aspect, where Network Monitor, Network Prevent for Web, Network Prevent for Email kind of sit. The Network Monitor was the aspect we spoke about, all your data in motion. It looks at HTTP, HTTPS, FTP traffic, IRC chats, AIM, Yahoo, Instant Messenger, and a few other things that you may or may not want to monitor. It can be Telnet and also SSH. Network Prevent for Email is exactly what it says. Takes a look at the response rules and says, takes a look at the policies and says, is this email going out? Does it contain PII? Does it contain personal health information? Does it contain source code or a price list that you may be sending to a personal email or to a competitor, and it may very well be that they didn't know that was prohibited, and those options may be strip out the content, no, it's a valid email, it's going to a valid source, what's encrypted, or completely block the email altogether. That's kind of the same how the aspect of network prevent for web works. The only other caveat is you need a web proxy in there. And there's multiple web proxies that are supported. Various ones support different protocols, and we can talk about that later. DLP, just a brief overglance here. Symantec has spent a ton of time from end-to-end security on this. From the agents to all the monitors are using various forms of encryption. The monitors use RSA, SSL, 1024-bit encryption. The endpoints, you get an option from 128 to 256 AES encryption and various other monitors there. So they have spent a lot of time to completely look at it. Even the database itself is encrypted. At the heart of DLP, as I had talked about, are your detection rules. There's pretty much three ways that you can do it. First one is what's called a DCM, or a described content. You can do specific attributes via IP attributes, envelope the bodies of the email, specific data or identifiers, specific expressions, keywords. Data identifier may be a medical record number, maybe a social security number, or a credit card number. Then we also have structured and unstructured data. Structured data is called an EDM, or exact data match, where you can go in, take a look at different databases. Oracle, SQL are the two primary ones. Your unstructured data could be various other forms of data that that do not fit into what I'll call our traditional response, and that may be source code information that you feed in and say, yep, this is what my data looks like. If you see this to a certain percentage, what we call a match thresh count hold, go ahead and say, yep, it is a policy violation, and go from there. The response rules that, as you see, cover consent and notification to the sender, to the manager, to IT security. It gets a little pop-up where it gets created, and can even be tied into a syslog server or an SEIM tool to further there. And as we were talking about blocking your SMTP, your HTTP, so that include webmail with your HTTPS, so Yahoo, Gmail, all the multiple ones out there. FTP, the caveat on FTP is that depending on what type of web proxy that you have in place, can block the FTP traffic, but majority of them all do support HTTP or HTTPS traffic, also along with IM traffic. Also with that blocking, as we covered earlier, USB devices by default, if you have an endpoint agent installed, USB devices are blocked from that. And that includes the DVD and CD burning copies also. Also with the agent, and if you do have the Symantec Management Console, the Altiris, there is an aspect to turn off print screen, so at that point you can almost completely start locking down endpoints, either by turning off print screen, copying USB, along with the print and fax copy, so it cannot be pasted along with copy paste, so it cannot be copied into another document later that they can be copied out. The only other thing they haven't figured out is if you do allow cell phones, would be about the only other way they could take a picture of the screen and copy it out. As we spoke, there are some conditions to it. You can say nope, encrypt it, and you're good. Under the relocate or copy files, that's under network discovery, you give an option to quarantine or move the files, and I'll show you that later. And what you're seeing here is the Enforce platform, or the Central Management Council. As we were talking about, we have our policy lists. Here's some example policies. Here's one that deals with PCI. And what we can do is set a breadth to basically describe how the data is looked at. As you can see, is it separated by spaces, dashes, periods, with or without separators, down to a narrow specific one that will incorporate various other cards out there. And there's also with the narrow, it also requires a keyword, so it may be CC, number sign, credit number, some of the various aspects with it. That's completely changeable and can be changed on the fly with that. At that point, you can just say, okay. Also, you also have a severity threat level. So in this example here, a medium is anything between 10 and 100. A high is greater than 101. So if it's anything less than 10, so 1 to 9, would be a low severity. And same thing here for social security numbers. You have your data identifiers, and then match on envelope, subject, body, or attachments, which is referencing email, and then your severity level there. Under your response rules options, you can say, oh, needs review, or you can create additional response rules here by creating automated responses. And then you can say notify security team. You set a condition, and then here is where you pick it. Severity is high, and you can say network prevent, and then type in the message of what the end user, of what the security team will see, and a redirect address. And then you can also modify your rules orders. Here's one for endpoint. It basically says the content name and what it is. You're trying to copy, save, transfer, or potentially contain sensitive information that violates the following policies. And then here's a justification for it. They'll get a pop-up screen, and it could be a broken business process that as you implement DLP, you may find some broken business processes, things that you're not aware of that are going on, a false positive, or yep, my manager is aware of it and has approved it, or no, the user simply was not aware and we need further education. The point is, on the user education, companies spend a lot of money on end user education. By seeing less and less of these, that's kind of driving home the point, and you're seeing a return on your investment with that training. As we had talked earlier about matches, you have exact data matches. We'll call this one medical record, and then at that point you can browse. We'll upload the source content. If you have say Epic or whatever else, or a simple pricing sheet that's in a CSV, you can upload it there, rename the CSV, and at that point you check the box here. It's going to read the first rows as columns. You're going to hit next. Of course, it's going to error out here because we don't have anything uploaded, and then it's going to index the columns, and then you're going to get an option to say, oh, I want to alert on part number with this SKU, this description, but I'm not too worried about pricing. And then you can set what works best for you at that point. Kind of the same thing under index as we were talking about. Here's some merger acquisition documents. Same thing, load them up there. It scans through all of them. The important thing to remember is submit indexing on the file save, because it goes in, indexes the document, and then tells the Enforce server what is in those documents. The other aspect that stands out, if you have something that really doesn't fit, they have a new one called Vector Machine Learning, and you basically teach DLP what is a positive and what is a false. It may take a couple times doing it, but otherwise it's completely, I don't want to say foolproof, but it's leaps ahead of, it doesn't fit anything above, what do I do with this? And then we're going to take a look here, incidents. As you can see here, we selected Network Discover. As we talked about, Network Discover kind of goes out and looks at all your Discover targets, which I'll show here, which we have a file server here. It was scanned, number of bits scanned, number of incidents. We can further go into a policy here to say, once I've done creating it, submit the job for schedule, but pause it between these dates and times. Why is that important? That's important because if you say, oh, every Sunday, the last Sunday of the month, or every Sunday we do complete full backups, I don't want to try scanning this data and doing backups. It's just going to create a headache. Things aren't going to finish. Ignore here. Pause it on Sundays. The other nice aspect too is scan only new or modified. So once it's completed a full scan, it's only going to go back and scan the documents that have been changed. As we talked about here, the shares, filters to exclude. If you say, oh, we don't want to worry about anything larger than 5 meg, we're good with that. You put your exclusion here, anything smaller than 5 meg or anything larger than this point, we're good. As we had also talked about, the throttling option, if you have a larger file server that's maybe older, you can set throttling to how many kilobytes, bytes, or megabytes per minute, or say, nope, don't scan anything more than 20 files in a minute. So it's completely, I don't want to say hands off, but it's going to work with other aspects that you have in your network going on. And as we talked about, here's where we talked about the copy and quarantine. Copies out to a quarantine server. It says, yep, it doesn't belong there. Please copy it to here. Here's the path it goes to, and here's the credentials it needs. And back to, here's one, as I discussed, Network Discover. Shows all the social security numbers, shows what server it is, the date and time. Has it been seen before? Nope. It shows you the directory and the file where it's at, the name, who the file owner is. That's important for later when I show you data insight. Also along with the history, any notes that you may need to create, and say, oh, this is from HR for pass card replacement for door keys. You hit save, the notes are now in there. Along with further, it will correlate any other policies it has with it, any other file owners, along with any other similarities in file names, along with the location. Going to our endpoint, we're going to talk about network endpoint protect. We have a default configuration here, and this is everything that it looks at here. Your destination, removable storage, DVD, CD, you know, the print and fax. Can you put it in the clipboard? Your instant messaging. Do you want to also include Outlook? Or if you say, nope, we don't have Outlook, we use Lotus Notes, and they don't even have FTP installed, so I don't care. This here, under Ignore Attributes, this is all completely built in. What file extensions you want to monitor or exempt, along with other removable storage. That also ties into the Symantec Management Platform. Let me show you right here that you can disable print screen. That if you have Altiris in place, that you can, with a simple checkbox, basically toggle on and off print screen. Why is that important? As we talked about, they hit the print screen button, copy and paste it into Word or into Paint, save it as a JPEG, send it out. They have all your information right there. Talking data insight here. This is actually one of the preferred servers to be installed. It's a great add-on, can be added on later. Why do we like to see it in first? Basically, as you're seeing here, I can go out and go, oh, here's the file server. It's on DC, and we have a folder called demo, and we have something called sockets. Okay, why is that important? Oh, it tells me the administrator has access to file times along with this user, and this user. You know, you get a tabular view and go, oh, you know, here's the percentage of access also. Well, what else does that do for me? It tells you all the active users, and if there's anybody else, oh, they haven't been accessing it because they're all inactive. Looking at file activities, it tells you across what days that has been going on, along with audit logs. So you can say here, it will tell you date and time when they first access it and when they have last accessed it, and what attributes they have to it. So they can read it, or maybe they have write permissions. Why is that important? You want to know who's changing your data, who has access to your data. This is going to tell you where your data is at. As you know with DLP, it's going to tell you, what is confidential. This is another add-on component. It's going to say, yep, the data's there. I am accessing it on this date, this time. This is how many times I've accessed the data. Why is that important? Maybe because I was on vacation for the last 2 weeks and a file I haven't touched in a month, I now have accessed 20 times. What am I doing with that? It could send up a flag, send up an alert, or nope, Stu was on vacation, he's trying to play catch up, from being out 2 weeks, or maybe no, let's look a little bit further into this. No, he has vacation next week. He's just trying to get all of his work done. So that's kind of a general basic overview. If you're interested in more with data insight, just let me know. I can set up a separate one, but as we were talking about, we can add policies like we were talking about on severity levels, and then further reports either by file group or by folders or by department. Basically everything that comes when you land here, complete policy over summary, high-risk senders, protocol summaries via domains. This is also customizable. As you can see here is another different view. And then what's nice also is you have executive summaries. This is an executive summary dashboard. You have them for endpoints and discover and everything else. You say, oh, let's create a new dashboard. And you can make it private or a shared dashboard. We hit next, give it a name, and go, oh, I want something for the CISO to see or the security team manager to see. Give me all the incidents for the week in the top left-hand corner, followed by anything new. I want to see everything on the endpoint that's happening. Hit save. We'll go edit preferences. And then this is now who has access to it, and go, oh, this is their now default dashboard for sysadmins. And then this is the data that's included in there. So let's go save. And you have a completely customizable dashboard. There's also options to send out reports. The nice option is you can say, oh, send it out as a link. So then the link goes out and say, hey, your weekly report is done. Mr. CISO, please log in here. Why is that important? Because if you send it out as an HTML or a PDF attached, if it gets forwarded to the wrong person or intercepted, it's going to see what's going on. Here he has to log in and say, yep, I have permissions to being here. And that's completely setting roles here that you can say, nope, I need roles here, and then creating roles and who gets access to what. So if you have a person that just kind of gets the bucket day of managing incidents to route them, he can only see, yep, route them, yep, we're good, and then these are the users there with it. And then even to the aspect of, can they delete incidents, can they export them, can they do XML reports or CSV reports, or see what information they're what business group they belong to. And it does completely bind to LDAP, so we can say, yep, this user with this IP on this machine, part of this business group, as long as it's populated in Active Directory, we can pull all that information out and start creating actually smart response rules to notify the manager for a manager follow-up. But as of this point, I've pretty much finished. And like I said, my name's Stuart. If you have any questions, and I thank you very much.